everybody, and welcome back to Mysteries of the Maw. I hope you're having a lovely day today. We're going to pick up right where we left off. So last time, our players returned to the ship after their expedition to the broken down outpost that was out there, and they began to kind of construct a plan on how they're going to make it to the other side of the Maw to visit the crashed ship. So they began to work on some transportation and some options, and also, kind of talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit, as it's been a stressful 48 hours for all of them, and they figured they might as well bond a little bit. Necklaces were given, specimens were borrowed, blood was given, all sorts of things. Els is making like a snowmobile with a sidecar, so that's pretty exciting. Oh yeah, and then at the end of the session, Nico and Branwen, well, I guess Branwen, you just kind of you were there for emotional support.
Moral support?
Moral
I don't know about moral. Definitely emotional.
Emotional support. While Dr. Nicolai decided to use some big magic, combining the blood he received from Kreg, along with their own, and the piece of the specimen that they borrowed from Els. As the spell kind of reached its apex, there was a sudden flash, and it had gone. In a moment, the spell was gone, and Branwen and Dr. Nicolai heard a voice in their head saying, "All are welcome in the collective." Just casually making me rewrite the entire campaign. And we're gonna jump back to the workshop. We're gonna start in the workshop, where the group of you were kind of discussing what was going on. Mal's has been put in the corners, by the way, audience at home. Unfortunately, Jonathan couldn't join us for tonight. So Mal's, we miss you. We miss you. And I'm sorry. So Mal's is in the corner because they were seeing things, a visage of their brother, but it was not their brother. So we're going to pick up right where we left off with Els and Kreg in the workshop. Mal's is in the corner. What are the two of you getting up to?
I think go ahead.
Real quick, I just have to know. So this is like before the thing happens.
Correct.
Ooh.
We're kind of a little bit back in time before the big magic was done.
Okay, cool.
Yep. I will tell you when it happens.
Okay.
Okay. I think at this moment, Els is still sitting on top of the lab table, just like in her crouched position, and her eyes are fixated on the door where Branwen and Dr. Nicolai had left, because she herself is just she wants to be in the know on everything. So she's just like fixated, waiting for them to return, even though they just left.
Okay.
So impatient.
What you gonna do with my specimen?
And she turns to Kreg.
I don't necessarily know what they plan on doing with your specimen, but I trust Nico.
And I trust
do the right
Branwen.
thing.
How is Mal's looking in the corner?
He's just kind of pouting. He thought he saw his brother. It wasn't his brother. He tried to fight his imaginary brother, ended up hitting his head, and then, kind of got scolded last time for what he wanted to do. So he's just kind of in the corner, just kind of sitting there like sulking. Yeah, sulking is a better way to put it than pouting.
Okay. Els takes note of that, and I think she just scooting backwards so her eyes are still on the door. She'll just start tinkering with the sled, or I can't think of it.
Snowmobile, that kind of thing.
Snowmobile, yeah.
Mhm.
She'll just keep working on that so that it'll be ready by the next day for them to go investigate the ship that had crashed on the other side of the mall.
Kind of walking up, just kind of walking with the hands behind the back, just kind of casual, just kind of looking over your shoulder as you work on the snowmobile. Not saying anything, just admiring your work.
She just like slowly turns her head.
Is something you want, money man?
My apologies. I was never any good working with devices or machinery. It fascinates me how you have such a talent for this, such a skill.
Peculiar. When you're stuck in a lab for 5 years as a technician, you learn some engineering along with science.
I would imagine so. I very rarely have been stuck anywhere, so I never cultivated such skills.
Good for you. So what skills have you trained, if minimally?
You see him think. And it is kind of an awkward amount of time for someone, because, people know what they're good at. It's kind of a weird that he has to think about it, I would imagine.
I'm good at getting what I want.
Is that so?
Yes.
Are you a quick learner?
I believe I am, yes.
Then let me teach you something.
And she just starts opening up the little makeshift engine, and you still have the blowtorch in your hand, so she's starting to go into the intricacies of the different parts and pieces. Considering that this is a makeshift one, it it looks similar to a DIY kind of experiment. So there's some cool technicalities to it, and then other things just look really childlike, but it appears to be working. So she asks you to assist her, and she's like,
Well, here, we need a good structure if all 4 of us are going to be on here.
Of course, though. Yes.
He looks at the blowtorch. And you can see him think, and then he just turns it on and holds it directly where you want it.
You seem deep in thought. What's wrong?
Oh, yes. I was just considering an easier way than this device. Though I don't know if it would work. Again, I'm not necessarily good with machinery.
Enlighten me. What is better?
Well, no, I simply just the welding.
He turns it off.
You want this? What is this? You want this piece here?
And what is the exact piece? What does it look like that you need welded? Is it a pipe or?
Basically, they are 2 metal pieces that she's kind of taken from the ship, and if you weld them together, then it will cause a structural framework for multiple people to ride the main part of this snowmobile. There's the little there's a little sidecar that can fit 2 people, but then usually the main seat is only for 1 person, so to make it more structurally sound for 2 people, and or 3, depending on who's going to be riding with us to the ship, she wants to give it better structure. So it's pieces welded together on an already existing frame.
Gotcha. All right. So Kreg sets down the blowtorch.
This is another skill, I suppose I have.
And he just grabs that piece. And Alec, I believe, would this count as maybe my, not necessarily my attack, but the same sort of thing?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Do I need to roll for this?
Yes.
Or okay. Cool. So I'm got double 6s.
God, tell me how it works, buddy. You tell me what happens.
You see Craig's kind of takes his hand into to 3 fingers here, and he literally just slides them down right at the base. So the different panels where they connect, he literally just, and it sizzles, and you see it sear perfectly just from his hands. And he does that for the entire section that you needed.
Is there any other sections you need?
What was that? Can you melt things with your hands?
Again, this is perhaps a skill I do have. Though I would say this is more of a talent, as I never had to work for this. Well, not until recently.
And as Kreg says recently, Els, you see around Craig's neck where, is it exposed?
It's like slightly, like around the I think it's forget which side I mentioned it was on, but the smoky, like what looked like a tattoo that y'all have seen before, like it looked like smoke that just kind of curled up to his neck. It's like kind of barely exposed.
Well, it's beginning to become more exposed as you begin to see it. And I'm not sure if this is painful for you, Kreg.
Absolutely it is.
Yes. Well, Kreg, then you begin to feel it as you see the tattoo begins to climb up Craig's neck. And Kreg, you are in agony.
Oh my god! Moneyman, what's
Literally
wrong?
collapse down on the ground. Like down on all fours, just grasping.
At this point, Els comes down and she's like,
Let me see. What's wrong? Talk to me.
I can't.
And how long does this last?
It feels for you like it lasts a lifetime. But for Els, it probably it's like maybe 30 seconds. As the tattoo has kind of grown up to almost like just above the jawline.
I think at this point, Els is trying to fight Kreg to feel around this tattoo and neck because he has his hand pressed up against it. She's going to try to like maneuver her hands around it and feel if there's heat, cold, if there's something that is maybe beneath his skin that's trying to come out. Like it's investigative or...
Yeah. Go ahead and give me an investigative mystery.
Okay, cool. Let's see, investigative mystery.
Plus sharp.
Plus sharp. Okay, cool. That's an 8.
So on an 8, you can ask one question. You can either tailor it to this situation or you can use a question from the list on investigative mystery.
Shoot. What is being concealed here?
Kreg, I'm going to let you answer this one.
All right. It's not something that it is the tattoo. It's not something that's trying to get out. You see, like Kreg is just grasping at his neck, trying to just numb the pain, however, just by holding it. But it is ice cold to the touch. Almost like burning cold. Like I imagine if you go to touch it, it would like recoil from kind of like, liquid nitrogen, that quick little like frost freeze or snap freeze.
Yeah. Okay.
But it is just the tattoo.
Okay. So with that information, Els is going to fight you to get her hand on it, and as soon as she does, she's like behind you, so she's like, like spooning how like there's backpack with like a tiny person and a large person. She at this point is really just kind of panicked, and as she like feels the tattoo on your neck and notices that it is ice cold, you feel in her hands that she's not recoiling from the cold. If anything, she's matching the cold with this intense heat that is just concentrated in her palm. And she just kind of almost encases you in like this hug, and she just like gives you like a lot of pressure, as though she assumes potentially that you're having a panic attack. So she presses her hand against your neck, and she says in like this runic tone,
Ascoria Paloma.
and it's like there's like this heat that just fights back against the cold, and she just kind of stands there until she recognizes that you are better.
And those 30 seconds go by and the agony fades. And I think with the help from Jackie, it definitely eased. With the help from Els, it definitely eased the pain.
Yeah, that was Kreg definitely, as it's like coming to an end, kind of reaches up and like grabs your hand, and you just squeezes it. And his hand is cold, but not as cold as to the touch as what you were feeling initially. And you just can feel it like shaking. His entire body is just a wreck.
Are you better?
No. I am unwell.
What will make you well?
Time.
And he has kind of been on in a fetal position. He starts to sit up, and he kind of adjusts so you can so you're not on his back as he stays sitting on the ground. But he just head leaning against the snowmobile, just breathing haggardly. Alec, would I recognize that this is something to do with what Nico has done, or Nico has done something?
So because it was something of yours was used, something that you are connected to, you're not sure I'll leave it to you to whether meta or infer from it, but something of yours was just drastically touched by something and affected by something to some things that brings you great worry.
Okay.
And also with this realization, I'll give this to both Els and Kreg, Mal's is no longer in the room.
Els, at this point, when you stood up, she just kind of like scurried back, as though scared that she'd overstepped her bounds. And she just kind of just notices that you seem to be okay. You mentioned that you just need time, and she just nods, and then she's like,
Fuck, where's Els? Fuck, where's Mal's?
And he's still just like sitting, so I guess he's like at eye level with you, because he's just kind of sat, but he looks around and
that is not good. We need to find Mouse quickly.
Before you get up, she like puts a hand like on your shoulder, and then she flicks your forehead, and she goes,
That was not easier. That was more painful. Never do that again if there is a blowtorch available.
and she runs out.
Okay. Kreg, do you follow slowly but surely?
Just kind of, for the first time since that happened, chuckles slightly, though in pain, and slowly gets up and follows.
Okay. We're going to jump now to Dr. Nicolai's room. So the two of you stand there in the remnants of this spell circle. The papers and everything in the room was thrown astray by this ritual happening. And this voice just spoke in both your heads. All are welcome in the collective. And you sit in this moment of silence. Not sure if you're looking at each other or where you're looking, but it's a very thick silence. What do you do?
I think there's a moment of Nikolai remaining silent because he is attempting to process what just happened. What, at the end of the day, there was a cause and there was an effect. His intentions he doesn't feel like his intentions took effect. So he's now trying to understand what is. And with that sound, he knew the potential of using the specimen, but he doesn't know what this now means. So he is just in a state of trying to understand.
Branwen, what are you doing?
In that moment of you trying to understand, Branwen takes you by the neck, shoves you up against the wall, and goes, "What did you do?"
I think there is a reaction, but it is a twin casting of a reaction. There is a ow. My head just hit the back of my this wall, and there's a strong, very very strong hands around my neck, which also leaves a fractal shifting in his eyes for just a moment, but then there is an intense stare at Branwen. This was not intended.
I don't care what was intended. What did you do?
Unfortunately, I won't know if I am suffocated.
She lets you go.
Branwen, when you let Dr. Nico go, the back of your head hurts a little bit.
Oh, son of a bitch. Oh my god. She goes to feel the back of her head and she tries something. She licks out one of her claws and she draws a line across her wrist and watches Dr. Nicolai.
After a moment, Dr. Nicolai, your arm, fuck, hurts, as there is now a cut on your arm.
What the hell? I don't understand.
We're connected now.
I mean, your hand was just connected to my neck, but there's a different type of connection.
Look at this. You're
It's in
smart.
It's in the same exact spot as the one on your arm.
Oh, magic has its side effects, but I did not expect it to link us. Physically, yes. Metaphysically, do me a favor, please. Just think. I can't hear her thoughts, correct?
Depends on what Branwen's thinking.
Oh no!
She thinks about how mad she is at him, but besides that, she thinks specifically about a memory that she had with elves when they first started this journey.
What was the feeling in that memory?
Caution.
So, Dr. Nicolai, initially you feel fury, like you feel rage, and then you feel this kind of cautious pause come from Branwen. Like you can hear it. And it's not so much like you can read exactly what's on their mind, but you can feel it.
I'm going to assume that you are furious with me for some reason that I can guess multiple of them, but I am also assuming that there's a level of unwanted patience within yourself? Caution?
Right. Good.
Okay.
I'm so glad that this trip got 10 times worse.
I don't know if 10 is the exact number, but at least
Right.
hold. Please. I'm going to focus on the maw.
What do you mean focus on the maw?
I'm going to focus on the maw. Do I get any vibe of a connection?
You roll your vision, your dice for your vision, please.
What does that even mean?
I'm sorry, your when you get your premonitions.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That is a 10.
10. So as you focus on it, you can. Before it was, just this ominous place, the sense of unease and fear. But as you focus on it, you can feel yourself, whatever for Dr. Nicolai's sense of home is, and the feeling of home. And if he's ever had that before, I'm not sure. But it's this feeling of comfort and community kind of comes over you. And as you kind of follow that feeling, you follow yourself down into the maw, all the way to the bottom. And the blackness is no longer scary, or at least intimidating, depending on what you felt about it before. And you hear the sounds of fighting, of violence for a moment. And you see a face slap. Like it's almost like your vision is as if you're looking from the floor, as you see a face kind of slap to the floor next to you. And it's Mal's face. And his eyes are staring straight out. A bit of blood dripping from his mouth and from his nose. And then you look up and you see yourself standing over him. And then you're back with Branwen in the room.
Okay. I was taught that everything happens for a reason, but just because it happens does not mean you can't use it to your advantage. Always gain the upper hand. Always be at the forefront. Don't let things get behind you, even if they are physically behind your mind.
How are you feeling right now?
Oh God. Analytical. Focused. Behind that focus is a fear. But it is a fear of when you put your hand in the cookie jar, knowing that your parents can find out because they're around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that feeling of I'm getting caught, or what if I get caught?
Okay. And just to clarify, I can't see their visions, can I?
No, you can't see, but you can feel. And game-wise going forward,
yeah,
for the two of you, when one of you takes damage, the other will take damage.
Yeah, I figured that part.
And you can ask each other, either privately or in-game, what the other one is truly feeling, as you can now read each other's thoughts in the sense of you get feelings over exact images, and if either of you ever had any old aches, any old pains, you no longer feel them. if you had a creaky knee or a bum shoulder or something like that, you no longer feel those things. And you feel, and both of you feel a very strange sensation on your arm where the cut was. And if you look to it, you see it slowly sealing itself back up. As you see bits of little black tendrils sewing themselves together. And you see it close up.
Hey, question. This is just for me. Does it look like kind of inky smoke?
Because it is so small, it's hard to really discern the details of it. Because it's almost like the size of like hairs almost. And I hate that I had to use that, but that was like the best way I could describe.
The Last of Us.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fungi almost.
Yeah.
Filamental.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Science!
Science. And as the two of you watch that cut seal up, I'm really quick going to jump into the hallway. As the two of you, Els and Kreg, have run into the hallway, and you're immediately hit with the temperature change in the hallway, as the ship is temperature controlled to keep you from, the elements outside, but you are hit by a breeze of cold air.
Fuck. Did Miles leave the ship?
Do you head towards the exit?
Depends if Nikolai's room is on the way.
So essentially, the lab is on this side of the ship. Nikolai's room is on this side of the ship. The exit is in the middle.
So if I'm leaving and I feel the breeze, like a breeze,
yeah,
Els is looking for Miles, so she would probably head towards that direction.
Okay. Kreg, are you heading the same way?
Is the breeze coming from that direction?
Correct.
All right, so I want to follow the breeze wherever the origin of that is.
So the two of you make your way to basically the landing bridge where you all would come on and off of the ship. Think, the Emperor's shuttle, or every Star Wars ship ever, I guess. As you make your way and you see it is wide open and you don't see the blackness of, the tundra before you. And you can see just at the bottom of the ramp, footsteps leading into the snow away from the ship.
Fuck! I knew a time it wasn't enough. I should have tied him down. Shit.
Whatever is trapping his mind, we cannot lose ourselves out there trying to chase him down. We must get the rest of the group and pursue. But it will do no good for us to go at this moment.
I agree with you, money man. I'm just saying. Precaution should have been taken!
And she starts like hitting her head as though she is punishing herself for a small mistake. And she is embodying this mistake as if it was because of her that it was made.
As that's happening, Kreg immediately grabs your wrists to prevent you from doing that. And instead of the cold that he usually is, similar to the warmth you had earlier, there's just a very calming warmth to his touch.
There is nothing you could have done.
Slowly kind of bringing your hands down from your head as he kneels down, considering how tall he is, he has to.
Given what we are dealing with here, no matter what precaution we would have taken, Miles would have gone either way. I fear there's something allowing him to move with such quietness that we did not know he had left. You need not punish yourself for something you cannot control.
And she kind of just like forces your hands off of her, and then she kind of pushes your like head to the side to look at your neck. Has your tattoo changed in size?
No, it's the exact same as it where it stopped after I stopped writhing in pain. That's where it is now, and it has not receded at all or grown.
Okay, so she makes note of that, and then she like scrunches up your like lips and like brings it back to her face. She goes,
What is that tattoo?
It just grabs your one hand in both of his.
I am unwell.
Obviously.
It is a sickness that is not contagious, nor will it affect anyone else. I shall not recover from it, I fear. My hope is that there may be a way to cure it based off of the discoveries made here. You need not worry that this will be a problem for everyone else. This will only affect me.
A curse?
Of sorts.
Hereditary?
No.
Did you make a deal with someone?
now she's starting to be analytical of you. You have successfully taken her attention off of Mal's, and now she's like, okay, now studying you now.
No, I did not make a deal. It was out of my control that I contracted this disease.
That phrasing is very specific.
It must be. For your sake and mine.
I've never known a disease to be able to infect others through words.
Well, it's not necessarily the infection that you must worry about. It is just the knowledge that is gained. You need not trouble yourself with my problems. This is simply something you cannot fix.
I don't mean to fix you. I mean to observe you.
You are welcome to do that whenever you wish.
Like a devious smile kind of like cracks on her face. And then she goes,
Peculiar.
and then she just starts heading. She then kind of like takes your wrist and then just starts like scuttling again towards Nikolai's room. She's like,
As you requested, let's get the others.
And we're gonna jump back to the others. So the two of you watch the cut seal up on your arms.
So, diagnosis. However unfortunate. We are connected to each other. I intended to create or see if my power of taking raw power and shifting it to my will, I was seeing if there could be something that we could use to combat these visions, these probings that whatever was in the Ma is doing to us, to Mao, as we saw. And that seemed to have backfired. Perhaps because of... I actually don't know. That will require more work, more understanding. I don't know if my blood and this blood counteracted. I don't know if there was a bad formula. I don't know. I will find out. But it means...
So what are we going to tell them? Dr. Nicolai.
Would you like the honest answer, or would you like the answer that will sate you?
I want the honest answer.
We tell them nothing.
You really think we're gonna get that far?
No, but we have already witnessed that tensions can be high. Tensions can go from 0 to 100 very quickly over the simplest thought of dealing with what is below. Now that we have interacted with it and are essentially pseudo a part of it, I can only assume what they would do or try to do. To be quite honest, I don't think they would get far, though Kreg worries me. But I don't want to think of the negative.
Kreg worries you. He trusted you with his blood.
He did.
And he worries you. Why?
He looks over at the, I would say, 6 other laid out vials of his blood that I split up. The power that comes from him alone. Part of the 3 created this.
What are you talking about?
The door is still arcanely locked, by the way.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a knock here in a little bit. But
I'm sure.
You got some time.
Yeah. I believe we need to work on a trust.
How are we supposed to build trust if we keep all these secrets? Oh, what?
I'm saying that I can't give you full answers if you don't have full details. The experiment was simple. 1, use a specimen which is connected to whatever lies within. That is a powerful artifact. That is a powerful substance. 2, use my own blood, which is not just raw potential. It is connected to someone who is quite literally more powerful than most on this plane. We'll dive into that if I need to. But that is just the absolute fact. 3, I don't know who or what Kreg is, but he has immense power within his gigantic form. More than most. Quite frankly, I believe more than you and I combined. There was a possibility, a potential to see what the 3 of those entities combined would do. And I hoped to break it down to its most molecular form and create something anew. Clearly, this is the result. Unintended, but the result nonetheless. It was reckless, I understand, but I do not think we would have had one more night without Mal running off doing whatever he needed to do. So I made an executive decision.
You're really good at talking yourself out of any culpability, aren't you?
There's no point in sitting in the guilt. I feel it. It exists. I'm sure you can feel it in your mind right now. The point is we have to look forward. Potentially we are on a time crunch now. We don't know how long until this collective makes us truly a part of it. We don't know what happens next. All we can do is act.
Don't you think it might be pertinent in that case to possibly tell the others what happened so Kreg can divulge more about his life and what he's working with? Because then maybe we will have more answers as to what exactly is happening to us.
Then we do so with Kreg alone first. We have to look at all of the avenues here. I understand that it is my doing, trust and believe. That quite literally is how things are created. That is how we learn. That is how we grow. That is how we understand the ununderstandable. It's a price. I apologize that you have to also pay it.
Els is also a scientist. You don't think that maybe she could help in any way?
He like takes a step back. Fine.
Knock, 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 knock on the door as Els has begun to.
Miles has disappeared! Miles is gone!
Do I hear that?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Get out here!
You get, Branwen gets the distinct feeling of I told you so.
She rolls her eyes.
I will just like snap my fingers and like glass shattering, the spell will dispel. Will dispel from the door.
So that you can open the door now, Els.
I've been told not to go into people's quarters without them opening the door first.
Open the door, it's fine.
That's consent.
And then she opens it up and goes through the door.
You see the two of them standing there, and the room is a mess. There's stuff thrown everywhere, all over the floor, things broken. The room is a disaster.
I think if this tension can cut through steel like they wanted the World Trade Center to. Okay, let me stop.
Laugh.
But that's how tense it is, I think.
It's really tense. It's real tense in there.
Yes.
Very tense.
Actually, this is exactly what Nico's doing. Just.
Uh-huh.
So you're that kind of scientist. Not clean.
What happened?
Miles is gone.
Would
The
I?
door is open.
I would see the vials of my own blood set up, wouldn't I?
Correct.
Oh, but I think it's also fair that you would have seen him setting it up before he left.
This is also
Like
true.
when we last talked. When
But
you
is
gave
there
him
one
the-
less?
There's one less.
There is one
vial.
less. There is one less.
That's more so.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you see like the thing, you see one of the things just gone. Yes, 100%.
Because you all definitely noticed that Kreg, again, that also, he looks twice as tired and worn down. Like, he looked rough already, and he's just like bags, huge scruff, just everything. He looks worse. But he makes direct eye contact with you, Nico. And Alec, freedom to just kind of have a little bit of a moment.
Oh,
Step into the spotlight, my son.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Father. The air in the room becomes immediately cold. Kreg's eyes frost over as actual like ice crystals start to form from his eyes. And in a voice that doesn't sound like his normal voice,
Did you betray my trust?
This is interesting. His eyes definitely move over to Kreg. But you don't, and Branwen feels it, you don't get fear. You don't get worry. More concern. There are a plethora of things going on at this very moment, this very minute second. The answer to your question is no, because there was never an instruction manual for what I could and couldn't do. But if your intent was for me never to experiment, then perhaps yes. And I want this to know, this isn't, it doesn't come off as like smarmy or anything like that. It's just very matter of fact. You can also tell like his focus is like half on you. It's like dealing with a lot of shit right now.
Eyes unchanging, voice unchanging, turns to Branwen.
Branwen? What did he do?
How are you feeling when he asks that, CB?
Again, it is a level of concern because he has an inkling of what Els can do. He has an inkling of what Miles can do. He has an inkling of what Branwen can do. He doesn't know his full potential. So there's a level of concern, but there is still not a level of fear or worry for his own bodily form, though.
Okay.
Which you can infer whatever you want from that.
Good. You're not scared.
He's
which
not.
means I can do this. She takes all three of her claws and cuts into her arm.
Ow!
And Els and Kreg, you see the same cuts suddenly rake across Nico's arm.
There is an immediate cooldown. Well, not cooldown. A heat up, if anything, since he's already very cold. He grabs your arm, Branwen, and looks over at Nico's. And then he just waits.
And in that silence, you slowly begin to see these little writhing. What was the word you used before, Jackie?
Filaments.
Filaments. Little black filaments begin to kind of crawl their way from each side of the wound and begin to knit themselves back together.
I want to lace one of my fingers underneath and pull.
Okay.
Not high, only like an inch.
Nor!
Give Alec a quick second here.
Oh, we're breaking it for a second time.
No, so sorry, Branwen. Could you roll me 2d6 plus? I think I'm gonna have you roll.
Tough?
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, 2d6 plus tough, please.
Okay, 9.
A 9. So as you pull it up, you immediately feel what's the only thing I can describe as it loops around your finger, you can feel thousands of little teeth digging into your finger for a moment. Do you keep it on your finger?
Yeah.
Eat, eat. Lots happening.
You're killing me, dog. Okay.
Am
all
I
right.
able to intercept?
But that's what I'm asking.
I'm gonna let. All right, Els. What do you want to do? Els, and Nico, you will get one thing each.
Okay.
Els, what do you got?
I think at this point, Els wants to take, since the room is in dishevels, a vial if it's available at her feet, and she wants to take it and try to hold on to the trap the extended part and put it in a vial so that Kreg is no longer touching it. She has another specimen and it's not hurting Branwen anymore.
Presently, it's like, I'm trying to find if I have anything to, here, I have this wire. So imagine it's presently, I didn't even grab the wire. It's like looped like this, where one, like basically like both ends are in Branwen, like still like in their wound. Yeah. And it's currently digging into their finger. So where are you putting the vial?
So if it is around the finger and still with like attached to Branwen, I want to like just pinch it off. Like if it's like a little piece of that long extended thread, it isn't around the finger, but just of the connecting point between the two, she wants to like take just a micro piece of it, which then cuts it off from Kreg back into Branwen, and she has a piece of it in a vial. So
okay. So that's what you're gonna do. Nico, what are you attempting to do?
You would see, because Kreg's in his feelings, and that's fair. That's fair. But now, if Mal is the king of impulse, and Nikolai is the bishop of impulse, Kreg is being the knight of impulse right now, and he needs to not be. And seeing him touch it and it's still holding on, his fingers are just going to flick. And I'm intending for this fractal power to literally wrap just around the wire, the grossness. Per the wording of it, of use magic and to trap a specific person, meaning a monster, I want to trap this small piece and get it to not be connected to it's going to be connected to Branwen, but make sure it's no longer actually physically touching Kreg.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do.
Yep.
For these two things to be successful, you're both gonna have to succeed on your rolls. Yep. Okay, so for Els, it's gonna be act under pressure.
Okay.
For Nico, we're gonna use magic. Yeah, we're gonna do use magic to be precise with this.
Cool. Okay.
Did I ever use my forward from my previous premonition?
No.
I'm gonna take a +1 of this.
Okay.
So I have a 6 and a 3, 9 + 1, 10.
10. Okay. Cool.
And that is a 10 exactly because of the +1.
So
we go simultaneously. Scientists be like.
So Jackie, so Els, you're able to kind of clip it off at in the middle of it, and you see like the bits that were severed that are still connected to Branwen kind of slither back into the wound as it helps like reseal up the rest of the wound. Kreg, your hand is currently encased in this magic that was cast by Dr. Nico around your hand, but there is still that one little strand that was in Kreg's finger. It began to dig into his finger. And so it's stuck. It's presently trapped by Dr. Nicolai's magic. It's not going to go any further, but it's presently still on his finger because it was beginning to dig in. So your hand is presently encased in this fractal magic, and that little black strand is not moving.
Is it still actively trying to infect him?
I've said that it's like frozen. Basically, it was like its teeth are in.
Gotcha.
Its teeth are presently in, but it's not digging any deeper right now because it's trapped by your magic per the wording of use magic. It's basically stuck in place. And you, Els, now have a new little sample. Yes.
As I'm essentially concentrating for a moment, like literally just like growth, I almost didn't even look at his hand. I just kind of like snapped and acted. Finally look over back to Kreg. Don't make mistakes because of your impulsivity. Like some of us.
I was about to call you a hypocrite.
Can I do the thing with I do my attack and I
Yes.
just want to burn this thing off of
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. In moments, it's in seconds. Yeah. Well, as long as you roll well, at least. Why are you making that face?
That's a 6.
So, per what you've learned from elves, heat hurts this.
Yeah.
Heat hurts this. Heat kills this. And you go to use heat. Something's different about this particular version of it.
We changing the game. Oh no.
This particular version of whatever the hell this thing is, you go to burn it and it seems to almost take in what you gave it, what you tried to use against it. And it's still trapped, so it's not moving anymore, but it didn't seem affected. And go ahead and mark an experience for me.
I did.
If you didn't already.
With that, I'm going to walk over to Nico.
Find out what this is, what you've done, and why it is here.
There are a plethora of conversations that will be had, as there are plethora of conversations should have had happened. Can't work right now. But as the fractal glove essentially is on Kreg, I'm going to say this might hurt this a little bit. I'm going to attempt to essentially hex this thing. So I'm trying to, with hex specifically, I do my use magic. And the use, and sorry, let me get back over. I had to go open it. I'm intending to cause harm to this little thing to break it, but with hex, I do an extra 2 no matter what.
All right.
So I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't stay.
Roll 2d6.
Whatever the hell this thing is doing now, that is 8.
So the fractal magic, we see it kind of encase around it tighter and tighter and tighter, and then shatters away as the thing that was wrapped around your finger is now gone, and there's just a tiny, almost like a paper cut around your finger where it was.
And then I'll kind of shake my hand and it'll. Before we continue, there are multiple things we need to focus on. You said mouse gone.
Yes.
How long he was in the workshop?
Well, we were in the workshop until I felt a great pain. But 2 minutes ago?
I mean, at this point, with all of the chatting and the talking,
maybe
it's
like
probably
5.
It's closer to 10.
Closer to 10. Okay, well, however
It's
long
closer to
ago
10.
it's been.
I felt a great pain and collapsed. Els kindly assisted me. But when I was returned to stabilization, Mouse had disappeared. And we followed out and saw the doors to the ship open, and he, I believe, has gone into the mall.
Branwen gets a feeling of falling in her mind as I'm thinking of the pit.
Great. How did it get so bad so fast?
Do you two know something?
If Mal is headed for the maw,
He's already
that means
inside.
What do you mean? How do you know that?
where else would he have gone, Els? There was something talking to him in his brain.
And now you have filaments in your skin.
Yes.
Do you know something that we do not?
Let's lay things on the proverbial table. This is a moment where you see him, he's been kind of like physically, he's looked visibly stressed. He straightens up. Into his parental unit. Let's get things out in the open. And while I will always take responsibility for everything, every experiment I do, please understand that this was intended to be for the better for this group, because there were impulsivity happening before. I intended to create something for us using the power that I have to prevent more problem. Yes, Kreg. Per our own discussions, I trusted, or I understood, that you were giving me a piece of you, not just out of the kindness of your heart, but to learn and understand. And I realized that you have something immense about you. And yes, my own impulsivity came forward. I was curious to see if your whatever it is could counteract the collective, as well as sprinkling in a part of who I am, which is what it is. The three had a side effect neither myself or Branwen would have expected. I will admit, Branwen was an unfortunate victim in my experimentation. Now we are connected. And we are connected to whatever is happening below. But we are not mindless. We are not raging. We are not trying to infect. So clearly we are not part of the collective as they want us to be. But the case still exists. The truth is still what it is. We are connected. And in that connection, I felt Mal below.
How far?
I am not someone who understands the means of latitude and longitude so easily. I don't know exactly where he is, but I know he's within. And for the record, and your trust can be decided however it needs to be. I did not do this with the intent of breaking trust. But I do not regret what I have done, because now we have answers. We have something. If you wish to fight me, if you wish to do what you need to do to let your anger out, feel free. I can take a hit. I have done so all my life. But right now, we have a fellow team member now below. So what would you like to do?
I look up to Kreg. See what he's going to do.
Kreg walks up to Nico and just looks him in the eye. Doesn't say anything. And then turns to Branwen and very gently holds the arm that he just previously did the little and puts a very gentle hand on top.
Forgive me for my rashness. I needed to know.
Branwen pulls her arm back. I don't know how it happened that Els and I became the rational ones out of everyone in this group. You know, the rage monster, the scientist. Somehow, we're the ones who have our heads on our shoulders. And she's going to take Elsa's arm. She's going to guide her out of the room. We're going after Mal. We don't have a choice. We can figure out what's wrong with Nico and I later. But right now, our priority should be getting Mal out. If we can. So collect your things and meet me on deck. Walks away.
Els kind of fights you. And she looks at you, she's like,
If you know that Mal's is in there, can you sense that he's alive? Is he bait for us?
Technical question.
Roll
Yeah.
me. Investigate a mystery.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have Branwen do it.
Yay. Hold up. Can't do simple math. Every time. Okay, then what's my investigation mystery? Okay, that's a 10. It's 10.
So you focus, in response to Elle's question, you focus a little bit. And the feeling that you get is as alien to you as it can be. Because, as, beings in this world, the normal senses that we have when it comes to being touched and what it feels like to be touched and those types of things and to touch others, we understand that. But you can almost feel heavy boot falls. You can almost like they're walking on you. Like the feeling doesn't make sense. It's very, very faint, and it doesn't. Your mind is having difficulty wrapping around what this means. But thinking about Mal's in the maw, that's what you get.
I think he's moving. That's all I know.
I do not like to go into the mall unprepared. We had answers, and now more mysteries.
I know you're frustrated. Dr. Nico knows exactly how I'm feeling, too. Meet us on deck. Grab all the things you can. Els, how far did you get on that thing you were working on?
With the help of Kreg. It is
functional, DM Daddy? Okay.
Yes, it's functional. It's
Okay.
functional.
with the help of Kreg. It's functional.
Right. We'll use that. Els, Yumi, bedroom. Now.
I look to Kreg for a second before I walk out with Branwen, and I say,
I wouldn't blame you if you confiscated what is rightfully yours in those vials.
and I just kind of like glare at Nico, and then walk away.
Els, what do you do with the sample that you took?
It's in my hand.
Correct.
I was planning to research it further. So I think she's going to try to convince Branwen to talk with her in the lab while she studies this sample. Because if she's in a time crunch right now and people are going to head out tonight, she wants to get as much data on this sample as possible.
Branwen, do you go with to the laboratory?
Fine. Yeah, laboratory. Fine. As long as we're away, get me out of here.
Okay. So the two of you head off to the laboratory. Kreg and Dr. Nicolai, are you both going to start getting ready, or do you guys want to continue to have a conversation?
I'm gonna walk out.
Okay.
But I stop in the doorway. And just kind of turn my head just very slightly.
I understand your desire to fix and to protect. I beg of you, do not use my blood. Whatever power you think it holds, it is not a savior.
And I leave.
Okay. All right. So Els and Branwen, the two of you have made it to the lab. What do you do?
So as like discussed before, there is a door to the lab because when she was using the blowtorch and whatnot, you saw just like the light shining out. So I think, understanding that Branwen probably wants privacy right now, she's gonna close the door and just kind of like lock it, and then she's going to hop onto the counter, motion for Branwen to come over, and she's going to just like cup like the face of Branwen and just kind of like look at you and be like,
"Are you okay?"
And she like starts like kind of like manipulating your face, make sure like look at your neck, and like she's starting to look at your arms, and she's especially looking at like the place that was scratched and now it's healed.
I can tell you that I don't feel any aches and pains anymore. But if Dr. Nico and I can feel the same things, and we're connected somehow to whatever this thing is, it's going to be a lot harder to fight.
You mentioned that you could feel Mal's walking. Or that you knew he was walking.
Yeah.
Els is like scribbling down like the information.
Have you seen people in the ship like Mal's?
No.
She's gonna like take her little vial of like the new substance, and she's going to take her juju bag, the little heirloom that you saw, and she's going to open up the juju bag, and from it you see like embers of heat, and she like is whispering things to it, and she just like holds the vial above it to see how it reacts.
It doesn't react to the heat.
But it isn't attracted to it either.
Great point. It looks like it's trying to get at the bag.
It appears that Nikolai, Dr. Nicolai, has created a mutant. Case 1, scared of fire. Case 2, loves fire.
So then she's going to whisper again to the bag, and then you see, similar to how Kreg mentioned liquid nitrogen, now you see like fog coming out of the bag. She holds it above it. What's the reaction to it?
It continues to want to get towards the bag.
More experiments, sorry. She's going to take the juju bag and pour like this molten rock on a spoon and then holds it over top of it.
It continues to want to get to it. Go ahead and roll me investigate a mystery.
Great.
But just because you continue to run all these experiments.
Yeah. Investigate a mystery is plus sharp. Cool. Okay. 7. 9.
9. So you get to ask, I believe, one question. You can
What
either
can hurt it?
What can hurt it? So as you're testing the elements and you see that fire, like it's no longer scared of it. The ice, it's no longer scared of it. The molten rock, it's not scared of it. And what you discern from that is that it's attracted to the magic of the bag.
That's what I thought.
That's
why I wanted the molten spoon to see if it was attracted to it, because there's magic in the bag, but it's just hot and heat from the spoon.
But it was generated by magic.
Interesting. Okay.
From my little bit of findings right now before we go into the maw, whatever mutant is inside of you, it likes magic. Do with that what you want.
Considering my body, Dr. Nikolai's body, Kreg's body, all kind of made up of magic, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you have any thoughts of harming me?
No.
Is there a
But-
voice?
There was one. It only appeared for a split second at the beginning.
What did it say?
All are welcome in the collective.
I'm guessing I heard of that phrase in a book before.
That was the phrase that the entire world heard when the Drowned King arrived. When the Drowned King entered the orbit above Novum, every being on the planet heard that in their head.
What do you want to do?
Elsa's expression at this point looks a little bit defeated. She is trying to do these micro experiments, trying to gain as much knowledge and footing on this as much as possible. But she just looks sad.
Branwen can read that. Honestly, at this point, Els, there's really nothing that I want other than to find Mal, get him out. I don't know what we can do. I don't think I can go back. So we just gotta move forward.
It is inside your mind. But that also means you are inside its. Do you know what it How to go forward?
And she hits the table and she starts like pacing on it. She's at a loss for words.
Bronwyn's gonna grab your hand again. With your consent, pull you down. She's gonna sit on a stool with rollers on it and roll up to you. We can get through this. This changes everything, but we can get through this. We just need to work together as a team. And right now there's a lot of impulse happening, and I need you to not do anything drastic. Because clearly none of that's working. You and me. Okay? Like we talked about.
You see her eyes kind of glaze over when you warn her of being impulsive. And this half-hearted, broken laugh comes from her. She goes,
Impulse. Chaotic. I've heard those words before. Please understand, Branwen. Out of everyone here, I am called that. Daily. I have been for 5 years. Do not mistake my methods for being chaotic, for my actions are calculated. I will not take a step forward unless I know the right way to keep anyone from getting hurt. I won't go behind locked doors and do experiments threatening others. Each move is calculated. I take pride in that. I am not impulsive. Sure, methods unorthodox, but they get answers. So worry not. I won't be impulsive. Is there anything else you want to say to me?
No.
Then I have a letter to write.
she just kind of skitters off to the other side of the lab.
We're going to cut over to Dr. Nicolai. Dr. Nicolai, after Kreg and the rest have left your room, what do you do?
There's a moment when Kreg leaves, but the door is still open, and he's just kind of standing there. Branwen, you're going to feel almost instantaneously disappointment, a fuck ton of guilt, agony, but not in pain, but more turmoil. And a bit of disgust for himself. And it's going to come all at once because the room is going to just concussively explode as this burst of energy just comes from him and he just screams out. And the room, already in chaos, is in a lot more chaos than it was. He's going to, without magic, move over, close the door. He's going to go over to his desk, where he has his stone, his way of communication. He's going to call his mother.
Okay. She answers and she goes, "Are you all right?" Nikolai,
How do you do it?
how do I do what?
How do you watch someone with all the power that they have? How do you watch them when things fail? What do you do?
Failure is necessary.
I don't want the answer that he would give. I want the answer that you would. Please.
I understand. And I don't judge them for it. Because I always understand the intention. That whatever they're failing at, I know why they're doing it. And it is hard sometimes to watch him and to go along with it. But I understand why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. And I love him. And I care.
I made a choice. I made a choice, and now I'm becoming the villain in that story, and that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to help. And I don't know what to do.
You own that choice. And you use it to help. Whatever it was. You have to own it, accept it, and understand that you made a mistake. But then you make damn sure that you don't make that mistake again, and you make damn sure you help next time. Mistakes happen. But what matters is what you do next. What did you do?
Just know that I'm going to make sure that I come home.
You better.
It's going to be hard.
Do you need me to be there?
No. I was sent here for a reason, and I can do that.
Your father... You know these past years the way he's been. And I don't know everything. But what I do know is he wants you to come home as much as I do. And if that means not succeeding at whatever grand scheme he's put you on, come home. because he'd rather have you home than have you succeed. As would I.
I need to clean up. We have to go after someone who has gone within the mall.
Okay. You bring them home. You be careful. I love you, son.
Love you too. He will hang up.
Okay.
He's going to sit there for a while. And I would say, Branwen, there is just a deluge of sadness that has come over. But there's a resolve that is attempting to come to the forefront as he straightens up and he gets the room cleaned up. He's not using magic pointedly. He typically is like a prestidigitation person all day. You can tell he's actually trying to like pick things up and move things. And as he looks over at the files, he like stares at them for a while. He's going to take them, put them back in their original state. And he's going to place them in a small little box or something. And he's going to, I know do magic for it, but he's going to arcanely seal it. So he can't touch it right now. He's going to put that away. He will go to his door, straighten himself off, fix his bow tie, fix his glasses, and he'll start to head up. And he'll go towards the deck, but that's the last place they said everything.
Yeah. All right. Kreg, where did you go after you left the room?
Very briefly to my quarters.
Okay.
I walk in and I close and lock the door behind me. And I go straight to the first mirror I can find.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the tattoo now encroaching up onto his face. The pupilless eyes just stare. And I punch the mirror as hard as I can.
The wall gives way. The mirror is dust upon impact. And the wall just kind of like, dents in, because it's the hull of a ship. These walls are made of metal. And there is a nice fist-sized impression in the metal. And as you pull your hand from the hole in the wall, I'd say you'd hear it, but it's more like feel it. As, taking in this tattoo, the new tattoo, punching the hole in the wall, the rage you feel, you hear a trumpet. And I'm going to have to DM you what this means, or I can actually, would everyone besides from Luke remove their headphones? So, because of what you are, what this means chills you to the bone. Because what that noise means is that there is a being out there that is on their way here. What that sound means is, and what that being represents, is the end of this world's, like your kind and this world. Specifically your kind. That is the equalizer that when things are out of whack, that shows up. And a single trumpet means there's time. There's a lot of time. But what that means is something is coming. Won't be tomorrow, won't be in a year from now, may not be in 10 years from now, but it marks the end of you and your kind on this world.
For the first time that we've seen, Kreg is scared. Genuine terror.
Okay.
And I think he just slumps to the floor. And he's going to have this moment of realization that what he does here won't matter.
Okay. I'm going to tell them to put their headphones back on. Anything else, Kreg, as you're sitting on the floor now?
I'm going to get up slowly and just very calmly open the door. And I'm going to head to the deck.
Okay. Got it. And then while the two of you head to the deck, we head back to the laboratory. Branwen, after Els said they were going to write a letter, do you head to the deck as well? Do you head to get your things and then to the deck? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Els, do you want to outwardly say who you're writing the letter to and what it's about? Or is this secret?
I'll say who it's to, but the contents are circumstantial if I read it.
Got it.
So, amidst a flurry of movement, if it was like an aerial view, you could just see like this piece of paper that's been taped on all the edges with a pen right beside it, and you would see maybe a paragraph or a line be written, and then it'd pause as Els was like packing up her things. Another paragraph and sentence would be written, and she would continue packing up her things. So she's simultaneously writing this letter as she's packing up her things, but it's addressed to Grandma Pickle. And as soon as it's done, she signs it, takes the tape off, folds it, and she goes to find Captain Marius.
Yes.
And she just hands it to him with like this really full rucksack on her back, and she says, "This is for Grandma Pick." Remind me her real name.
Let me get that for you.
It's like it's Fickle. I think it's Fickle.
Yeah, it's Master. I have it right.
I could say Professor Fickle. That's fine.
Yeah.
So she hands it.
Master Lorexi Fickle.
Lorexi Fickle. So she hands it to Captain Marius, and she goes, "This is for Grandma, Professor Fickle."
All right. Are you all headed out now?
Yes. I don't know how this works, but if we're not back by a certain increment of time, leave and give this to her. Please.
Understood. I hear you.
Bye.
And she just like goes off
No, all right.
from the hallway.
Keep it safe.
Got it. So you all, with your various gear, winter coats, are now met, standing at the top of the ramp that heads down that is leading out into the dark, snowy night.
I also want to specify that the little vial that had like the new mutant, it is now in like a macrame necklace around Elz's neck. And she never did get the specimen back from Dr. Nicolai. I don't know if he brought it or not.
Or did you use all of it in the experiment?
Remember, I only got a small sliver, and that sliver went into the experiment.
Okay, so there's still the specimen that's
the main specimen exists. I guess I took off a very small part of it to use for the experiment.
So I think so Dr. Nicolai only took a small teeny bit from yours, Els.
Yeah.
So you still have yours in your laboratory.
I thought he took okay.
No, he only took a little teeny bit of yours and left the rest of it with you.
Okay. So Els still has that. It's under her arm, but they are still separated, and she's going to use that to observe some patterns.
So what you see, like when these two specimens are put near each other, you see the little one is trying very hard to get to the big one, and the big one is staying at the opposite end of its enclosure. So like if, like basically there's the two specimens,
one's
like the one on your...
the other?
It looks like the little one's trying to get to the big one, and the big one's trying to get away from it.
Peculiar.
I'm going to let everyone know that.
With what minimal testing I could do, 2 things have been discovered. If you care to listen, Dr. Nicolai. 1. Whatever mutant you've made within yourselves, it is attracted to magic. So I'd be careful using magic within yourselves, potentially. It might siphon power from you. This is just a theory. But what we see in there will prove me right or wrong. 2nd,
and she holds up like the little vial and like the larger specimen.
It appears as though your mutation is more virulent than the original. I do not know yet what this means, but it is nevertheless data. Do with that what you will.
Tucks it back under her arm.
So the group of you Oh, go ahead, please.
Real quick, I was waiting to see if Kreg or Branwen said anything. Pointedly, while Els is saying very specifically pointed words towards Nico, he's not reacting to it. And he doesn't even respond. He's just like, I don't even think he looks. Or he didn't look completely. His eyes might look, but he doesn't like really focus. But Branwen, you will get a heavy case of curiosity from that. And more of a, do we now like overpower? Is it scared of it? Is it scared of what this is now? Like what that means? So you can tell there's some thoughts happening towards it, but he's not showing it at all.
I'm gonna ask Els specifically to make me an investigate a mystery as you all head out of the ship into the night.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and roll for that.
It's not good. Plus sharp.
Sharp.
No, that's a sorry, suddenly couldn't do math. It's a 6.
It's a 6?
Experience.
Yeah, mark an experience. There's something with what you've learned about the history of the collective and the infection, the way these two things are interacting, the fact that the new sample is attracted to magic. There's something there, but you just can't. Your brain hasn't connected the dots yet. But there's something there. It's like on the tip of your So the four of you walk out into the snowy night, and you see the footsteps that were left behind by Mal's are already almost covered by the shifting of the snow. But it's not very hard to discern where he's gone. As you know, the moonlight here gives normally, like where you are from in the ivory fields, the moonlight on the snow is quite pretty. It's quite, it almost lights up the night. But here, the light is almost suppressed in a way. Like it almost feels darker here at night. Even though it's the same circumstances, it's the Arctic with a moon shining down on the snow. Normally it would glisten and be pretty and slightly creepy, but still pretty in a way. But here it's just the darkness feels heavier here. As the four of you head out into the icy cold and head towards the maw. And you follow, essentially, like the footprints is where Mel's went is where the outpost was, where their essentially like their path into the maw was. Yes, Branwen.
Are we taking the vehicle that Els made, or?
The vehicle was mainly for us to get across the other side of the maw to the ship in a faster time increment than it would to walk. If we're just walking, we already made it to the edge, like before. So I don't.
Yeah, you're at the close edge essentially. Yeah. So
I don't think we'd have it right now.
So I need to know who is walking up to or into the maw first. What's our marching order?
Kreg will go first.
Okay.
And there'll be a pause where I'm going to stop and look in, feeling that same draw, I presume.
Yes, you do feel the same pull. And now that you're close to the edge, you can see essentially kind of at this entrance point, almost like a quarry, the workers on the outpost seem to have made kind of like a pathway that winds down. The pathway itself is, that they carved into the rock is probably about, I'd say 6-7 feet wide. So it's wide enough for a couple of you to walk next to each other if you want. They made it wide enough so that they could bring equipment down and up, those types of things. But essentially they carved this ramp and you can see it go down into the maw and then kind of almost disappear off into the darkness. Did any of you bring any sort of light source?
I think Els would, having taken so many things from the lab. I think she's being like the little hoarder at this moment, with all the potential supplies.
And
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think Branwen would have just grabbed a bunch of just necessary things like rope, a light, maybe a ration, everything.
Got it.
And Kreg just pulls out a torch or flashlight, whatever.
Yeah.
From just doesn't look like he's got any like carrying it, but it's a sizable flashlight. It just reaches into his jacket. Boop.
Okay.
I think if it's fair, because he does a lot of work at a desk, I think when he has these glasses, they're probably like the attachment he can put in his glasses, like a reading light.
Yeah.
So I think he probably has one of those there, but it's not on. So he probably has to connect with that.
Got it.
Also, I don't know if it's going to matter right now, but since we're going into the maw, it might matter. I was just looking at my character sheet. When I have my premonitions and I mark that forward and use it, I mark experience.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 experience.
Ah. So you level up. Interesting. Okay.
I don't think we need to do it right now, but I just realized that, I technically have 5 experience.
Yeah. So you're gonna level up. Yeah. So we have got Kreg in the front. Who's behind Kreg? Or are you going to start walking side by side? I just want to know which way you're walking into the maw.
I would assume Branwen's pulling up the rear just in case.
I think that Nico's probably right behind Greg.
Okay.
I don't know how
Els?
Branwen feels after the explosion that the Els had with her. So I don't know where Els would be. I think if anything, she would be behind Bronwyn only because she's starting to punish herself again for speaking out of turn, and she's just kind of sulking in the back. But if things are fine, then she's most likely in front of Bronwyn. So it really depends on how she feels.
I'll say this. When you came up on deck, you didn't get the vibe that Bronwyn was upset with you.
Okay.
Just kind of a silent understanding of, you're fine. I get it.
Then she's probably in front of you. So I'm behind Dr. Nicolai and in front of Branwen.
So you all head in? Okay.
Before we walk in, I turn and look at all of them. And you all notice Craig's demeanor has shifted, certainly, since his explosive behavior. He's much more calm. Almost eerily so.
Whatever happens, I promise, I will do everything within my power to make sure everyone goes home. That all of you and Mal, any survivors we find, get home.
And I'm going to turn and start walking in.
Does everybody else follow? Is that a yes? Okay. So you all head in. As you begin to walk down the path into the maw, immediately, you felt that sense of unease before. It's now begun to kind of almost like you're carrying a weight in your chest as you walk in. As you begin to kind of take in this immense sinkhole, crater, or whatever you want to call its depths. And as you begin to take in its depth, it kind of defies the logic of it for those of you more like analytic brain. Because there was an explosion here, right? There was these three battleships crashed into each other and slammed into the ground. There was a huge explosion, but it should just be like a crater. But it seems to become like more of a sinkhole as you begin to go down. The air is thick with the oppressiveness of the darkness that begins to envelop you. You hear the distant echoes of your footfalls reverberating through this void. You begin to see tangled wreckage of shattered ships. The snow begins to get less and less. The snow that kind of blanketed the ground of the path begins to get less and less as you go down. And you begin to see it on the walls and on the ground and around some of the wreckage that you walk past. These long, inky black tendrils that have begun to kind of wrap their way around every wall and every floor and every bit of wreckage. And you see them kind of glisten just a little bit in the moonlight. And as you navigate deeper and deeper, the shadows of your own lights and your own figures kind of flicker and almost playing tricks on your mind a little bit. And what really begins to almost get to you is it's besides from your own footfalls, you hear this just thump, 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 thump. This ever present beat as you descend into the maw. And I need everybody to roll me investigate a mystery.
Since Els has been studying the maw at distance for 5 years, may I use my lore library what is it? Not moves, it's a haven technically, but it's when you hit the books you take 1+ forward with the investigating mystery. Cool.
Do it.
7.
3. Mark experience.
5.
Mark experience.
Ooh, 8.
8. So, Dr. Nicolai and Els, depending on which one of you, and I'll let you draw your conclusions from it, almost equally fascinating as it is horrifying, is that this, looking at the tendrils and knowing what you know about the collective and the infection, the maw is not simply a hole in the ground. The maw, and hearing that thump, 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 the maw is alive. And for some reason, I'll give this to Dr. Nicolai, you have the feeling to look back where you came. And you look back where you came. And you look for where the moon was. And from where your path was to the surface. And you only see more darkness. And as those realizations set in, you come to a juncture as the path winds down. And there is a path that leads off into the middle of the maw. There's a path that leads into a broken hull of a ship. There's basically looks like a chunk of a ship has embedded itself in the wall of this. At this point, what's the word? Rustic's the wrong word. Antique warship. Like basically half of the hull of that warship embedded into the wall. And then there is the path leading further down into the maw.
As we get to this juncture, and he, looks back and looks forward, and now he's at this crossroads. I'm going to look for Mel. One moment. I'm going to go into myself.
Mm-hmm.
You almost see like a fractal eye appear on my forehead. As the move I now have is tune in.
What do?
You can attune your mind to a monster or a minion. I'm looking for mouse. Roll weird. On a 10+, I hold 3. On a 7 to 9, I hold 1. On a miss, the monster becomes aware of you. But I get to basically ask questions to figure out some information, and I get a +1 ongoing while acting on this.
So are you looking to use your newfound connection to find Mal?
Yeah, it's like it's a both. It's a we're in the maw. It's a mouse here.
roll weird.
It's we gotta find him, and we're already in this position. Okay. Oh, great. That is math. 10.
Okay, you get to ask questions.
Well, no, I get to hold 3.
You get to hold 3.
So I am going to use 1 though, and ask essentially where Mal is right now, or that's specific. I hate that they have like specific questions, but
I mean, with like this game and with masks, I'm like, you can ask a question that's related to your situation if none of the questions on the list make sense to what you're trying to do.
I guess I'm gonna ask Chu.
Okay.
Where's Mal right now?
Okay.
And in that vein, what's the best path to Mal?
So,
Can that help us with the junction?
you use this tune in to tune into your newfound connection. And immediately you're hit with this feeling of hunger and anticipation when you're focusing on where is Mal. As you feel these hurried footfalls on you. As you feel Mal is running down. Mal is running into the maw, deeper down into the maw. And he is perhaps maybe one descent beneath you. You're not really sure how measurements work in this thing. You know he's beneath you. He's not far beneath you, but he's below you. And your second question was what exactly? I can't.
What's the best path to get towards him?
It's basically to take that downward slope to get down to where he may be.
Do I get like a draw right or left, or just down?
So as you continue to focus on it, you get the draw down. Basically, you get the draw to follow the path down, and then you get the draw of frustration as Mal is now behind something below you.
That eye disappears. I'm gonna hold the 1 for later if I need it. He is below. He is continuing to go down, but he is blocked off.
Blocked off from us?
I don't know.
We must go. Come. If he is below us, then we must hurry.
And that's only a left and a right, right? That's not a down.
So when you got to this juncture, essentially you were coming down and you landed on this juncture, right?
Yeah.
There was the path to the ship in the wall, which is like, immediately to your left. There was the path into the middle of the maw, which was to your right. And then the path continued downward.
Oh, I missed the third one. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like right and left. Gotcha.
No. Yeah, so like basically you had 3 options: into the ship, that's in the cliff face or the rock face, whatever. There is the path that goes into the middle of the maw, and then there was the path that continues down.
All right. Yeah. Down.
Okay. Everybody follow suit.
Yep.
Els, would you mind rolling me 2d6 plus cool, please?
Eight.
8. So as you're running down, you swear you can hear a voice, and it sounds familiar. It sounds like Pickle. And it says, I hear you, Els. I see you. Come down further.
Els is unfazed by this. In fact, she actually like tugs on Branwen and she's like,
The maw is trying to get to me. I hear my beloved's voice. Because I like transparency.
and she's like behind Nikolai, so she's like spitting this to the back of his head.
So would Kreg also hear this, I'm guessing?
I killed Alec, apparently.
Yeah, you hear it.
Cool.
I'm just gonna say, if there is, and it's okay if it is, totally above board, okay. You know, sometimes when especially when you're, for lack of a better word, aggressive, sometimes you can't actually hold back saliva. So if there is some kind of saliva, but we say, if there is, where it touches, you see fractal swarm.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay.
So
Can I feel what
AKA,
Dr.
I'm
Nicolai is
listening.
feeling? Oh, okay.
Oh, no, it's definitely, you can tell it's like when somebody keeps poking you. You know, that's all. It's just, okay, poking a bear. That's fine.
So you all descend into the maw further. And you reach what, like, as basically as the ramp comes down the side of the wall, you know, you turn your flashlights to look, and again, you see more of these tentacles along the walls, and your feet, as soon as they kind of touch what looks like a flat surface, you feel kind of this squish, almost. It's almost like you're walking on, you know, when you were a kid and you went to those gymnastic places and they had those cubes in the foam pits, right? You remember what those felt like? That's what it feels like you're walking on. As you come down and you almost hear this kind of like squelch noise as you walk down on it. It's almost like watery kind of bubble noise.
So we're just in the giant space worm, like Star Wars.
Yeah, literally. That's kind of how I was thinking.
And as you see, you can see the path like continue to kind of wind down, but there's now this kind of almost like landing where you are. Yes.
Can I look at like the ground with like my little headlight and see where the terrain that we were on then differentiates into this new one? Can I see if there's a difference like in muscle tissue potentially?
So you see, like, what you were on was a rock path. Like it was stone that was carved. Basically, like the team carved this path for you to go down.
Okay.
Because that was how they would get into the maw, investigate the maw, and come up.
So, as it was stated before, Els has like a little like pacer clicker. So she's been counting how many steps to get there, and now that they're on like a new terrain, she marks the number and like pulls out her little journal and she starts like writing just X amount of paces in, terrain has changed, and then looking at it, can she determine if it is animalistic?
So as you're looking down at it and you begin to take notes, and you can see this almost like tendrils, like I kind of like the way you described it, as like muscle tissue kind of growing up around the rock. Mm-hmm. Your observation is interrupted by a noise. As you begin to hear this kind of whining noise coming from the other side of the room, the other side of this floor. And for those of you turn your flashlights, you see along the wall, kind of perched up against the wall, it's got this long, almost olive-shaped head with this pale gray skin and these slits for eyes that are it almost looks like they go from here all the way to the side of its forehead. And these sickly yellow eyes look out from it as you take in the rest of its long body, as it's got these grotesquely long limbs, like too long. The fingers are too long, the arms are too long, the elbows are too pointy, the legs, like it's very much, if you've ever seen any Slender Man like type of like thing, like that is the shape of this thing. As you see, as you hear that whining, you see from basically where the corners of the eyes go onto the side of its temples, you can see this slit begin to appear as it begins to open this almost like anaconda-sized mouth as it opens up, seeing all of these rows and rows and rows of teeth that make up this maw. And it leaps at you.
Hello, time to go Angie real fast. Yeah.
So it jumps at you, and you decide to rage, right? Branwen?
100%.
Is there anyone specific that it lunges at, or just the forward person?
It leaps at you, Els.
No.
Okay.
Els, I'm gonna, yeah. Well, you are the one in front, so you go, and then Els will go.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Is as the forward person, and I can tell the trajectory, right? Like
Yes, it's lunging for Els. As Els was the one who shined the flashlight on it first, it's going for Els.
Okay. As it's lunging, you all suddenly see, even though there's nothing at his hip, there is suddenly, as he pulls out an white, like ice white whip that just materializes as he pulls away. And I want to try and whip it around the neck and yank it back.
Roll to kick some ass.
He got a whip.
Okay.
Pinky.
That's not too bad. That is a 10.
A 10. So with a 10 on kick some ass, you can choose. You're going to inflict the harm that the whip does, but then you can also choose one extra effect. You can gain advantage, so you take +1 forward, or give a forward to another hunter. You can inflict terrible harm, dealing +1 harm. You can suffer less harm, which doesn't really matter to you, and you can force them where you want them.
I want to. The base damage here is 3.
Okay.
So I want to force them where I want them, and I want them down under my foot.
Okay. So you whip this thing around its neck and slam it down, put your foot on it, and you see, like, you know, this thing now, it's in front of you. It's this long, gangly thing that its height, if it would stand up, would probably rival your own. As it's kind of writhing under your foot. And then you see it kind of calm for a moment as you see it begin to melt into it begins to kind of go into the floor. And your whip begins to get pulled down into the floor with it.
Is it unaffected by the chill of the whip?
Oh, it's injured. Yeah, it was injured by it. But it's beginning to now kind of go into the floor. Like it's trying to use the floor as a way to either escape or move, what have you.
So with that pause from Kreg, Elle's going to reach into her bag and get her flamethrower, and she's going to aim specifically at the legs where it's melting to see if she can cauterize it and stop it from infusing, and see if we can kill it and then dissect it.
Roll to kick some ass, please.
Great. That's a 10.
Hey, so what's the harm of the weapon?
Oh, for flamethrower, 3 harm and does fire.
3 harm and fire. Good. So
should I specify my damage type?
Yes.
Holy.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And would you like to inflict terrible harm, suffer less harm? You force them where you want them, or you gain advantage, like +1 forward, or give forward to another hunter. You can choose one. So you can give a +1 to your next roll, or a roll of your choice. You can give that to another hunter in the group, or You can inflict terrible harm, which is an extra harm. You can suffer less harm because you want to take a little harm here. Or you can force them where you want them.
I can?
Yeah, because you rolled a 10 plus
Oh.
on kick some ass.
Okay, cool. Also, question. For moves, do I have to announce it before I roll? I'm guessing.
Just give me a heads up.
Okay, darn. Okay. Because I have precision strike. I aim for a weak spot and it inflicts an extra 2 harm.
Huh. Now we know
okay.
for next time.
It's okay.
Now we know for
next time. Next time. I will give one to another hunter.
Who?
Who looks like they're next in line. I'm guessing Branwen raged, so I'm going to give it to her.
Okay. So as it's beginning to get burned by this, as the fire that you expel from this hits the floor, you feel the floor move, and you feel this tentacle come out and hit you, dealing 1 harm. As the floor kind of almost comes to life and hits you, as now these tentacles are beginning to come out of the floor as this thing is going down. Branwen, I'd say you're next. As you see, Kreg is struggling to hold this thing as it's trying to escape into the floor, and these tentacles, there's now about 4 of them around you that are beginning to kind of whip around, that react to being burned by Els.
Ooh. I feel like the tentacles are probably the first thing I should address. So I'm going to roll to harm. I'm gonna kick some ass.
Kick some ass.
Cool. Ooh, I forgot that I have a really good modifier for this. Yay. Basic math. Can't do basic math. Okay. So that is not a 38. Dear God, there's a plus in there somewhere. Jeez. 11.
11. So
Yeah.
what's the harm you deal?
I'm gonna use my claws, so that's 2.
Okay, so you deal 2 harm and then choose one of the extra effects where you gain a forward. So you'd have 2 forward because Jackie had given you 1. Or you can give a forward to someone. You can inflict an extra harm. You can suffer less harm, or you can force them where you want them. You get to choose one of those.
Honestly, I'm just gonna do extra harm.
Okay, so you'll deal 3 total to the tentacle, and it will smack across you, dealing 1 harm as you claw into it, kind of rending this tentacle. And you see, as your claws claw through it, you can see you, like, basically the tentacle almost what's the best way to put it? Like, it doesn't start stitching itself back together as you claw through it, and the tentacle kind of falls like limp on the ground.
Interesting.
My friend, Dr. Nicolai, what are you doing?
So while they're being all badass, it looks like it's trying. I don't know if it's looking like it's trying to escape, or it looks like it's trying to get to another point, so it's not necessarily an attack, whatever. I'm going to hex.
Okay.
Because that's my go-to. So if he goes through, it's gonna automatically suffer 2 harm. However, my intention, as I looked at it, and I almost begin to like take these points out of the sky, and I'm starting to build this fractal moment, and I toss it almost in this direction and spinning and starting to surround it. Oil and water don't really mix. So I'm intending to bar a place of portal to a specific person or type of creature. I'm intending to make this creature no longer be able to interact with whatever it's happening, so it can't meld back in. It's just permanently repelling. It can't do the teleportation thing. It is an effect. I'm barring it from this portal thing.
So
Or I can trap it.
What I'll say is it won't sink any deeper, because it's not so much teleporting as it was more so like basically melding into the floor to then, like, come out somewhere else. So you were correct.
That's what he's figured. Yeah, he's trying to go away. So you know what? Let's actually use to trap a specific person, mini, or monster. I'm gonna intend to trap it so I can't move.
Yeah, so it's not going to go any further. So
Yeah.
Kreg, you won't sink any deeper. And then Nikolai, as you do this, you feel your rib hurt. as you take the one harm that Branwen also took.
Oh, and quick, I never unmarked it. I had one harm. Did I still have that? Or did I ever
No,
recover from
that you would have recovered from that.
Okay. Great.
So just leave it at this point.
Yeah. And then wow, yeah, that's great. That is a 13 for my weird. I have to use magic. That's rough.
All right. So after you do that, the thing is clawing its way, trying to move deeper as its escape route has been blocked, and it's got this whip around its neck as it's kind of like, basically like, you can see part of it is submerged. You can see top of its torso and its arms. It's submerged in the floor. Its head is still above, the floor as Kreg was yanking on it with the whip still around its neck. There are still these other tentacles writhing around. In these tentacles, one of them is going to take a swipe at Kreg. And I don't know why I'm rolling because it doesn't matter. As the tentacle kind of slams against you, you stay firm where you're at. The other tentacle is going to slam against Els. As you're going to suffer 2 harm as the tentacle comes down and slams down into you. Then what would the rest of you like to do? As there's 3 tentacles, the thing's stuck in the floor. What do you do? Anybody can go.
Oh. You're muted.
Els, did you have something?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How are harms, like, over a certain amount of time? Do they go away, or do we have to do medicine? Like, we were at the ship for a while. Does that
you would have healed your harm from the fight at the outpost.
Okay, cool.
At the outpost. Yes.
Great. We're good.
Okay, got it. All right. Who wanted to go next?
I was just going to say, with the thing now no longer able to continue going down, I want to tighten the grip of the whip around its neck.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just try and right through, because I should clarify, the whip is bladed. It's a razor whip. Like, it's.
So you're trying to remove its head. Yes.
I'm just trying to punching my mic.
I punch my mic all the time. Go ahead and roll. Cook some ass.
Okay, not bad. That's 9.
A 9. So you can see as you kind of move to displace this thing's head from its neck. As you do so, you feel that the head give way, and your whip is now kind of freed from it. As you see, like, basically the head kind of goes sailing. You can see from the bottom of its neck, you can see these tendrils kind of coming down around, as the head kind of lands almost like spider-like, with these tendrils holding up the skull of the head. As you see these other tendrils beginning to kind of whip out from the neck, beginning to slap at you, but you're able to, it doesn't do anything to you. As there's now this like spider head over in the corner, kind of there, and you see it begin to kind of scuttle up one of the walls.
I think Els will be trying to get at it with her flamethrower.
Okay. So are you want to try to shoot at it with your flamethrower?
When it says magic, can I determine an element, or when something is magical, like one of the gears and weapons? If it says magic damage, what is that?
It's you're using like magic to. Are you talking about your juju bag, or are you talking about your flamethrower?
I'm actually my magical dagger actually.
So
I want precision.
Yeah, so you want to use your precision strike. So it would be dealing magical damage.
Okay.
Like basically, yeah. So it's like, like in Dungeons and Dragons where you need magic weapons to hurt certain creatures.
Cool.
It's like that same kind of idea.
Then I'm gonna try and pierce it with a magical dagger.
Okay. Go ahead and roll. Kick some ass.
Ooh, okay, wait. Plus tough. 8.
So you'll deal the harm. What's the damage of the weapon?
The damage for that is 2 harm, hand magic.
Okay. So you dash forward and you stab this thing. And as you stab into it, it goes and bites down on your arm. So you're going to take 1 harm from this thing as it's bit onto you. Now, does Els have... Excuse you. Does Els have any magic within them at all?
Ugh. I would say that within Els there rests a circulation of baneful, if not hell magic.
As you feel it bite down, you can almost feel as if it's almost drinking in a way.
Ah, fucking vampire.
As it has bit down on you. So you dealt 2 harm to it. It dealt 1 harm to you. Who else wants to go? What are you all doing? There's now headless, writhing tentacle thing in the floor, stuck in the floor. There are the 3 tentacles around, and there's this spider head now.
Here's a quick question.
Yes.
This creature is clearly connected to maw nastiness.
Yes.
But I have noticed that it doesn't hurt you, which is why Els is focusing on it and not the tentacles. Also, for full disclosure, Els is unstable.
Els what?
Els is unstable.
Okay.
So
Well-
as this thing is drinking from her, you just see Els start to stagger and just kind of almost look lightheaded.
Cool. I'm gonna step in real fast. So Branwen sees you kind of stagger a little bit, and just runs over to you and, roll permitting, rips this thing off of you, breaking it in half.
You're gonna
I'm
like
gonna roll
King Kong to that like weird T-Rex thing, right? Where you
Yes.
snap its jaw outward. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and roll
Yeah.
to kick some ass.
Cool. I'm gonna do that. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. This is good. I like this for us. We're doing great. We're adding numbers. That's at 13. Yeah. I
Okay.
know.
So choose one of those effects. What effect do you want to deal extra harm? Do you want to suffer less harm? Do you want to force it where you want it? Do you want to grant a forward? What would you like to do on top of the harm you already deal?
I'm gonna do all the harm because I forgot that I have Claws of the Beast, which means all my natural attacks get a +1. So this would be a base +3 attack, and then plus that's a +4.
So how much damage total?
4.
4.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Four.
you crack this thing in half and just tear it into 2 pieces. You will take the 1 harm from grabbing its teeth. Basically, you just grabbed essentially like a jaw full of porcupine spines, essentially, of teeth, as you pull this thing in half, and it falls to the ground, not moving. And the body that is stuck in the floor is still moving. There are still the tentacles. What are Kreg and well, let's go to Nikolai. Nikolai, what are you doing?
I see that Els is hurt and makes a mental note to assist with that. But he keeps looking at the bigger creature. He says out loud for anyone to answer. Permission to experiment.
Get a very pointed look from Kreg, but
He asked.
As long as it doesn't hurt us along with it.
He just looks at Branwen because it might hurt Branwen, but that's like the only one he thinks.
Oh, and make sure to mark that harm for you too. Okay, good.
I did. As that magic is surrounding the bigger creature, he almost like just wipes his own arm and some of his own he like cuts himself with like it's like the sharpness of the magic, and some of his blood liquid nastiness is in that. And he adds that to the power that's currently wrapping around the creature. I'm intending to hex, but one of my hex abilities is for the target to contract a disease. We know these things are repelled from the new variant. What is going to happen now that it is forced to be next to it?
Okay, roll for it.
That is a 9.
A 9. So you force this energy onto it. You force this proximity of these two things together, or the feeling of the new thing with the old.
It also does 1 damage.
Yes, in dealing 1 damage, which will, cause it to expire. But as you force this feeling onto it, you see the tentacles suddenly go into the floor. And the body goes still. But the silence that takes over this space is filled by the sound of what your brain can only make sense as heavy breathing.
Labored breathing or just heavy?
Heavy breathing. And you begin to hear it. Thump, 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 thump. You begin to hear the sounds, all of you now, of heavy footfalls coming down the ramp.
From above us?
From above you.
Huh?
Before anything else happens, I rush over to Els and just put a hand wherever she looks most hurt. And then there is a coldness that washes over you as I am attempting to lay on hands, which is one of my moves. I have to roll for this, plus cool. And I get to heal, depending on how well I roll. I'm using a luck point.
Okay.
So with that, on a 10 plus, on a 10, I heal 2 harm or an illness, and they're stabilized. So you're no longer unstable, and you recover 2 harm.
Nice. What are the rest of you doing? You begin to hear this in this noise.
With my mind, because I was just about to scream in chat that I didn't get an answer, which is not on you. It's me going, what the hell does that mean? Do I think, would I infer that I alerted something to us? Will I infer that this thing was already coming?
You alerted something to you.
How did the thing still react though, before it died?
It was writhing, trying to get away.
So that means it is scared, but now something is coming to get that. Okay. Branwen just gets a lot of ties, probably like the meme of the board. But you get to say it's more of this is a good thing, not a bad thing, but this is a good thing. But he's just going to start focusing. If he has an ability to do something, some of that fractal magic is going to come over. Oh, this is a big move. I'm so sorry. It's going to start to go to Els, and then it goes over to Branwen as I attempt to heal some of her harm. With some Maya magic. Because if you heal, I heal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's valid.
And Els is looking a little bit better now.
Yeah, I know. He made a calculated move. That is a 8.
Can you hear my dog?
Very faintly. It's like, hey.
Okay.
I really thought it was the
Branwen and Nico,
No.
can you roll me plus cool, please?
Because of my earlier tune in, can I use my ongoing for this?
Your what?
My +1 ongoing for these for this?
Sure.
I
I
have.
have a negative to cool, so
So do I. So do I. Oh wait, yeah. I have one from Els. I'm gonna do the same thing, right? I can do
Yeah,
that.
go ahead. Yeah, you can add that
Alright.
+1. Yeah, you can add that +1.
Oh, good. That makes it a 7.
Ooh,
Okay.
it's okay.
Oh, that's bad. Well, thank God for the +1, but it's just a 5.
So mark experience.
No.
So Nico, Branwen, you're able to kind of. So okay. So this is, I'm gonna geek out just a little bit here. Have either of you or any of you seen the new Godzilla films?
Yes, not in
Okay.
their entirety, but I know
There is a thing in that, though, this new franchise where an apex predator can sense another apex predator. And for Branwen, you're not so much cowed by it, but it's more like, when a cat kind of like sees another cat that they don't like and they kind of square up, right? That's the feeling for you. For Nico, whatever is coming scares the shit out of you. It's almost like pressure. Like you feel this pressure coming. And so you all have the ramp going back up the way you came, or the ramp continuing down. What do you all do?
I think as not Nico, I think as Kreg is healing Els, she just kind of like rests her head on his chest and is just like,
We need to move. If I'm hearing things, something is coming for us. We need to move.
I scoop her up and hold her close and turn to the other two.
Oh yeah.
Let us move.
Keep
And
in
I
mind.
just start.
Go ahead.
I was just saying I start running, but go ahead.
You can actually physically see the hair on Bronwyn literally rise like a cat. Like she has this gigantic mane in her animal form and it's just standing on edge. And would you say that Dr. Nicolai is frozen in fear?
Oh, the blood. He has melanin. Not right now.
Bronwyn is going to sweep you off of your feet, much like Kreg has with Els, and is going to start booking it down the
bundle
ramp.
the scientists and run.
As I just want to say something out loud, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm willing for this to be above board for just a moment. While people are making choices, one of my issues on my character sheet is poor impulse control. I just want you to know that. I want you to know that. This was preordained. So, as I'm being carried out, I think my eyes just fractal over one last time. And this might be more of a problem than it needs to be, but I am scared shitless. I'm going to intend to, because it's a thing going down, and it goes into a room. Correct? We came out of a pathway to go
into a room, yes, and then you're going down the stairs further.
But there was a archway, an opening. Correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to intend to hex the opening. The intent is to bar the place to give us some time. So it hits a wall potentially. But with the hex, I want to break something.
The hex on the ship?
No.
Oh, okay.
I want to break the doorway.
So you want to collapse the rock above.
Kind of, a little bit.
Down.
Yeah.
Roll for weird. Use magic.
Which means it's gonna take a while for it to get to us, but also we're kind of stuck in here for a little bit.
Sacrifice.
That's a 10.
10. So you cast this hex out as the group of you kind of run past. You see the rock kind of like basically carving out what you see begins to kind of, you see the fractals kind of climb up it and we hear it crack as the ceiling begins to kind of and for any of you that's looking back, you see along the cave wall, essentially like, so you're looking through this now collapsing entrance along the cave wall, essentially where the other staircase you came from, you see this orange glow kind of beginning to shine on the wall as the sound of these heavy footfalls begin to get closer. And all you catch glimpse of is these two glowing red eyes as it, whatever it is, comes down that staircase as the rest of the ceiling collapses down on top of this entryway. And you all begin to run down this stairwell into the dark. Who's in front? Kreg.
Yeah, me with L's, yeah.
As you come down to like almost another landing, you feel a hand grab you by basically the arm and pull you towards them. And you don't really move when they go to pull you, and you whip to face it, and you see it's Mal's, and Mal's goes, "Get in here now!" As you see Mal's goes into a piece of like basically what looks like a hull of a ship. As Mal's like, "Now," and gestures like into this basically like hold that he's hiding in.
I look at him confused, but then turn to the rest of the group and still holding L's with one arm because
I'm tiny.
Size difference. I grab Branwen and pull her in with me. Okay. And then close whatever door is behind us.
And you all follow through. And you see that Mal's has kind of made is in this it looks like it used to be maybe a cargo hold or something, this piece of basically this warship that, it also embedded itself in the rock. You can see like their pack is in the corner. There's a slight lantern that you see he immediately goes to and turns it off. And he goes, "Turn off all your lights right now." And he says, "Be absolutely silent." And you hear the sound of rock kind of tumbling and moving. And you begin to hear and the sound gets closer and closer and closer. And that sound stops right in front of the door. And you hear this low growl. And then you hear the footsteps continue down. And after maybe even 2 minutes after the sound of the footsteps has disappeared, is when Mal goes, "Oh, holy fuck. Yeah, you don't want to run into that guy. He's not fun."
If I'm in Craig's arms and Mal's is right there, I think I'm gonna go up to Mal's head as he's leaned over, and I'm gonna flick it. I'm gonna be like, "Dummy."
I know. Before I knew what happened, I was down here. And then those things started chasing me, and then he started chasing me. Well, gang's all here.
Going to request that it get sat down by Branwen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he's still silent, but he just.
Els has made. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, please go.
Els has made herself comfortable, and she's like writing in her journal. She's sketching the monster that they saw, and putting down whatever she observed from it. So things such as did not affect Branwen and Dr. Nicolai, vampiric when bitten, appendages and head can be dislodged but still mobile. And she's literally just writing down all these things on this booklet. She closes it and she looks to Kreg and she says,
"If I ever get in the way, this book is the frontmost pocket on my right side. You take it and leave me if I ever get in the way. This has the most data that could help the world. You promise me. Frontmost pocket, right hand side."
Promise I will make sure to bring that book and you back.
flick your head again.
I just look at Branwen as this happening. Her calculations. It did not like what I did.
Bronwyn's slowly coming down from her beast form. So bear with her for a minute as she kind of absorbs everything back into her body. A little experiment of yours. It might be more beneficial than we initially thought. We might actually have a leg up on this thing. We just got to keep trying different stuff. What did you do to it?
She noted the whatever is within us. I don't know if it is the bigger threat. If it recoils because it doesn't know, or if it recoils because it is scared. We needed to know why. I now assume it's the latter. And if that instance drew that creature to us, that horrific thing, if it sees that as a threat and wants to take it out, then you're correct. We have the upper hand.
That's the best news I've heard all day.
And as you say that, no. And we see, the group of you all kind of sitting, and Mal is catching you up on the kind of horrifying, past hour that he has been through, in his time in the Maw. Branwen and Nikolai. As you know, you just had a fight for you, Branwen, and you used your bestial form. And Dr. Nicolai, you used quite a bit of magic in the past bit of time. Both of you at separate times throughout, you're kind of catching up, cough, and you feel your chest kind of hurt a little bit. And what we don't see, or what you all, the four of you don't see, but us as the audience see, is these little black tendrils spreading out within them in response to the exertion. And that's where we're going to stop for tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of Mysteries of the Maw. I have been your game master, Alec the Bard. Thank you so much to Tumidlynx as Kreg. Thank you so much to Jackie Elena Chan as Els. Thank you so much to Sydney of the Hightower as Branwen. And thank you so much to CriticalBard as Dr. Nicolai. We will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.